Today we're moving right along to do Module 4, Lesson 3, and our learning goal is to be able to express a fraction as division, which is the same learning goal as yesterday, but the difference is today we're going to do it using different forms. Now technically, yesterday did we already do it using different forms? What were some different forms we used to express fraction division yesterday? Alina? Word form or unit form, that's what it's called, right? When we said like 1 is the same as 5/5 or whatever, that's the unit form. Itai? Fraction form. What else? Tara? Picture form. And did we use number form too? Yeah. Okay, so today we're going to expand that and continue to see how we can express the division in many different forms. But first, let's talk about the problem of the day. It says a baker poured 4 kilograms of oats equally into 3 bags. What is the weight of each bag of oats? Okay. Now, we have to first figure out what would be the division expression. And first, actually, what I want you guys to do first is copy this chart into your thing. Okay. So it says at the top, division expression, unit forms, fractions and mixed numbers, standard algorithm, and then at the bottom, draw to show your thinking. So the first box asks us to write it as a division expression. That means a division sentence. So in order to do that, we just basically need to figure out what is the whole and what is the dividend. The divisor, okay? So what is the whole here? What are we sharing? The oats or the bags? The oats. So how much oats do we have altogether? 4 kilograms. So that means our whole must be? 4. So the first part of our division expression is 4, and it's going to be 4 divided by something. We're sharing those 4 kilograms of oats into how many bags? 3. So when it says division expression, all you need to write is 4 divided by 3. Now we need to write it into unit forms. That's what we were practicing doing yesterday. Since we're dividing by 3, do we want to change it into thirds, fourths, halves, eighths, sixteenths? What do we want to change it into? Sporty? Thirds. So I can say that 4 wholes is the same as how many thirds? 12. So unit form would be 12 thirds divided by 3. Okay? And by the way, when I do that, how many thirds are in each group? 12 thirds, and I share them equally into 3 different groups. So how many thirds are in each group? Everyone? 4 thirds. So to write the entire unit form, you need the equal sign too, and what the answer is. Okay, and you write it using words, like that. Now, how can we write 4 divided by 3 as a fraction or a mixed number? Lakshan?
You can do 1 and 1/3.
Yeah, I could write 4 over 3, right, because it's 4 divided by 3, which is the same as 1 and 1/3. Okay? Very good. Okay, now let's use the standard algorithm. When we're going to divide 4 divided by 3 using the standard algorithm, which number lives inside the house? 4. And who's knocking on the door? 3. Okay. Let's actually do it. How many times does 3 go into 4? 1. And then 1 times 3 is? 3. When I subtract, how much is left over? 1. So I could write 1 remainder 1, or I could keep dividing to have decimals, right? But what we're going to do now is we're actually going to express the remainder as a fraction. And the way you do that is, remember we did this before, you take the remainder, which is what? 1, and that becomes your numerator. And then your denominator is what you're dividing it by, 3. So look at our answer here using the standard algorithm, 1 and 1/3. Is that the same thing as our answer here using fractions and mixed numbers?
Yeah.
1 and 1/3. Is that the same thing as when we've got 4 thirds using the unit form? Yeah, and then we started with our division expression 4 divided by 3. So now we've expressed it in 4 different ways. We just have to do the last way, the 5th way, which is draw to show your thinking. So how can we draw a picture to show 4 divided by 3? How many boxes should I draw first? 4. Okay, so let's draw those 4 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to divide each of those into how many sections? 3. So I'm going to draw 2 lines in each one to divide each one into 3 sections. And I can show that one part would be 4 of these thirds. The second part would be another 4 thirds. And then the third section would be 4 thirds. So how many thirds are in each circle? 4. 4 thirds. Is that the same thing as the answer we got before? Yeah. Okay. So if this time the baker is doubling the amount of oats he has? How many oats does he have now? 8, right? Because before he had 4 kilograms, and if I double it, I multiply by 2, now he has 8 kilograms of oats. So if he has 8 kilograms of oats, and he's going to share it again into 3 bags, what is the weight of each bag of oats? So we're going to find that by filling in our chart. Write a division expression, the unit forms, write it as a fraction or a mixed number, write it using standard algorithm, and then draw a picture to show your thinking. Go ahead and do that in your own chart. Yeah, this time we're dividing our whole of 8, because now he has double the amount of oats, but he's still dividing it into 3. So our division expression is 8 divided by 3. Okay? If I want to write it into unit forms, am I thinking about halves or thirds or fourths or fifths or sixths? Alex, what type of fraction should I be thinking about? What kind of fractions should I be thinking about if I want to write it in unit forms? Let's take a look. Should we use halves, thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, sevenths? Thirds. How do you know we should use thirds?
Because that's what you're dividing.
Yeah, because our divisor is 3, we want to change everything into thirds. So 8 wholes is the same as how many thirds?
8.
8 thirds? 8 over 1 is the same as how many thirds? How many? 24, because I need to multiply 1 times 3 to get 3, and 8 times 3 to get 24. So this is the same as 24 thirds divided by 8. And remember, we need to have an equal. So how many thirds would you have in each group if you're dividing? Oh, sorry, we're dividing by 3. If I'm going to divide 24 thirds into 3 different groups, how many thirds would be in each group? Everyone? 8 thirds. I'm going to say this one more time so that you are aware. When it asks for unit form, it's asking for this entire thing. You'll notice there's words, there's a division sign, and there's an equal sign. Okay? 8 thirds. Okay, how can I write 8 divided by 3 as a fraction? As an improper fraction. Aditya?
You put 8 on the top, and then for the numerator, and then you put it on, and then
You got it. 8 over 3, or 8 thirds. Is that the same thing as our answer from unit form? 8 thirds. Oh, look, 8 thirds. Now, can I write that as a mixed number? 8 thirds is the same as how many wholes? 2 and 2 thirds. Good. Okay. Now let's write it as a standard algorithm. 8 divided by 3. Which number goes into the house? 8. Which number is knocking on the door?
3.
Okay, now let's divide. Dad divides. 3 goes into 8 how many times? 2. Mom multiplies. 2 times 3 is?
6.
Sister subtracts. 8 minus 6 is?
2.
And then brother brings down. There's nothing to bring down. Our remainder is 2, and our divisor is 3. So how can we write that as a fraction? Vasisht?
Bring the 2 up and use it as the numerator,
Okay.
and then make the 3 the denominator.
Yeah, okay. So then our answer is 2 and 2 thirds. Is that the same as when we used fraction? Over here?
Yeah.
Is it the same as when we used unit form? Good. Okay, so far we're feeling pretty good. Now let's figure out how can we draw a picture to show 8 divided by 3. Reagan?
You draw 8 boxes.
I'll draw 8 boxes. Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, and then I can divide each one into thirds. And I can show that one group of those thirds would be how many thirds? 8 thirds. Because if I circle one group here, that equals 8 thirds. Okay? So now how much oats can the baker put, or how much does each bag of oats weigh? 2 and 2 thirds kilograms. Good. So it's very important when we actually, after we do all this work and fill out the chart, that we actually answer the question. 2 and 2 thirds, and we label it. Okay, lots of us on your Module 3 test, which we'll be getting back on Thursday, tomorrow, you forgot to label your answers, so you lost some points, which is sad. Let's quickly do 5 divided by 4. How many times does 4 go into 5? 1. 1 times 4 is? 4. And then 5 minus 4 is? 1. Okay, so then how do I write my answer as a fraction?
1.
Yeah, the answer is 1 and 1/4. Now, how can we use multiplication to check our answer? Remember, multiplication and division are inverse operations, which means you can use one to check the other. And we've done this before, but it's been a while, so let's review. Go ahead and talk to your table group. How could you use multiplication? We've written this using standard algorithm, right? But could I also write this as a math sentence? What's my whole?
1.
What's my whole? 5. What's my divisor? And what's my quotient? Okay. Does that mean that if this number sentence is true, if I multiply in the reverse direction, it should be true too? So that means 1 1/4 times 4 should be 5, right? So let's check. What's 1 times 4? 4. What's 4 times 1/4? 4/4, which is the same as 1. So what's 4 plus 1? So is this number sentence true? 1/4 times 4 equals 5? So on your problem set in your homework, it's going to ask you to check your work. And I want to remind you that inverse operations mean that one undoes the other. So if you divide 5 divided by 4 equals 1/4, then you can check it by multiplying the quotient, the answer, by the divisor, and you should get the, everyone say it together, you should get the whole. Okay, very good.